Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years Retirement Community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with one of Disney's most beloved stars of all time. At least I think that's what it says. I can't read Ike's handwriting. Ike Eisenmann. Ike, how are you today?
I was going to say, wait a minute, is Haley Mills here? Wow.
Well, to start it off, I just want to say this is our 150th episode. So happy anniversary.
Woo! That's amazing. I can hardly believe I've been staring at you for that long, but I have been.
we have a special one because we're doing Forgotten Films, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. But we're doing the 1981. It's a Disney film, Condorman, starring Michael Crawford. It also has Barbara Carerra, Oliver Reed, James Hampton, who I love in so many different roles, and Dana Elcar. So filmed in France. The story, I'm going to set it up, is about a cartoonist who writes a superhero comic strip, and he thinks, he has to do all the things in the comic to make sure that it's realistic. So he does Condorman, which is a hero that, has flight, and he has this whole costume dressed as a condor. And somehow, because of his friend who works for the CIA, he gets involved in a CIA mission. That's kind of the basics of it, to go and rescue this Russian operative who wants to defect. I'm leaving anything out of the basic premise?
No, I think that's absolutely, that's dead on. Yeah.
So now I've been waiting because I suggested this a while ago since it was my turn. It's a movie that I loved as a kid. So I want to hear your initial thoughts.
Well, I was fully and completely prepared to absolutely hate this movie.
I knew that. Yes.
And especially after the opening, I was just like, oh no. This is gonna be torturous for me. And you're gonna be shocked to say this, but I liked it. I actually had fun. It is absolutely the stupidest, silliest movie I think I have ever seen. And I'm going to say right off the bat, Michael Crawford, right?
Yes, Michael Crawford.
The worst actor.
The opera fame and Hello, Dolly.
Yeah, just the worst actor I have ever seen. And I think we could do all of our Forgotten Films. I ended up looking him up on IMDb to see what else he's done. And movies I've never heard of, ever. Condorman's the only one that I've actually heard of. And I did not see it back in 1981.
No, wait, you didn't see Hello, Dolly and a funny thing happened on the way to the forum?
That was him in Hello, Dolly. I thought that was Tommy Tune.
No, Tommy Tune was in it as well.
Maybe they both were. Because sorry, I'm so sorry, Michael, to say this about you, but that grating sound of his voice just, I don't know, it just absolutely makes it hard to listen to him read this over-the-top dialogue. So I'm going to qualify what I don't like about it, qualify what I do like about it.
Okay.
Best stunts I've ever seen. Just about the very best stunts I have ever seen. And I can't believe they got away with doing the stuff that they did. I mean, from even the first fight, because Michael Crawford's character goes on this mission supposedly as a civilian. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to deliver these, papers to a Russian civilian who's going to turn them over to the Russian government. And he's got a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist that has the documents in it. And what cracked me up about that is he just popped open the briefcase without a key to hand over the documents, even though it's handcuffed to his wrist. But that briefcase in his hand ended up becoming this inadvertent weapon that he was able to use and a fight in this restaurant at the beginning of, fairly soon into the movie. And it was so well done, and it was so well choreographed, and it was like, man, I thought, okay, the movie just jumped way ahead for me. It was funny. It was this fight scene was funny and effective and just really, really well done. What I didn't like about it was when the stunts were over and we got into dialogue back and forth between the characters, it was just like, that was just painful to sit through. The pacing of it is, just it's so slow. The scenes are so slow before they get to the point. And I think, oh my gosh, please move this along. Let's get to another stunt. Cause that's the action stuff is what I ended up then wanting to see. And I had no idea that all of that was going to be a part of it. So, that from that fight scene to the race with the Porsches, and they were really good, and it's super entertaining from that standpoint. The premise is just ridiculous, but I know that's the point. I know that is the point, and that's okay. But somehow it's I don't know, there's parts about it that obviously miss for me. But by and large, I sat there and I said, I'm having fun. I am really having fun watching this.
I'll say it when I watched it again now, and it's not the first time I've seen it since then. I have watched it between then, but it's probably I've only seen it, I'd say 3-4 times in my life. So it's been many years since I've seen it. It definitely is a. You see, it's a Disney film of the time. Watching all of Disney's films, I believe, had that same feel at the time.
Yeah.
And what's funny is, like, I was comparing it of these late 70s, early 80s movies. It's your film stood out to me for many reasons because it doesn't have that sillyish Disney feel that came a few years after that, I thought.
Yeah, no, it didn't. Return from Witch Mountain was the one that was more like a Disney movie than Escape to Witch Mountain
Yes.
was, for sure. And I completely agree. That's, yeah, yes, it definitely has a Disney feel, especially regarding the special effects and the stunts and all that and all that stuff. There was just something about, I don't know. I think the director just wasn't the right person for it because he just didn't seem to know how. And I don't know what else he's directed. So
Well,
he
I'm
could have
going
directed a
to
bunch
tell
of.
you, you're right, because his history, and he was nominated for Academy Awards. Charles Jarrett, he directed Anne of the Thousand Days, Mary Queen of Scots, which was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, are so totally different than this type of movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
he
just
did
don't think
direct
he
another
quite.
Disney movie before this, the Last Flight of Noah's Ark, which I also saw as a kid. I don't know if you saw that one.
No, I've never even heard of that one actually. Yeah, he just didn't seem to have the sensibility for that type of material. Um, because, yeah, you look at other Disney films like the Herbie films and Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, and of course this is a decade after all of,
Mhm.
all of those movies. Um, but there's a pacing in them, in a comedic timing that the other filmmakers knew how to apply to Disneyfy
Disneyfy, yes.
the subject, the the movies. And yeah, it was sorely lacking in that for me, from from the dialogue scenes, for lack of a better word. um and it seems strangely, the only thing that seems strangely, I don't know, I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but Michael Crawford as Condorman is so incredibly confident that he's going to get out of all these horrible situations. And and I guess that's how he had to be That's what his character was supposed to be.
Oh, well, if you're going after Barbara Carrera, I got to believe that you, you have to feel that too.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's yeah, because I at first I thought she's pretending to fall in love with him, in order to double cross him or whatever. And she wasn't. She was actually falling in love with him, which just seemed incredibly odd. that would happen. But
Well,
somehow and then in the end it pays off. It all just sort of pays off. And I loved the ending, by the way, the very, very, like the
yes.
very last shot. I thought, oh wow, he must have been hoping for Condorman too,
Well,
given the way it
that's
ended.
exactly it. I don't know what you've read on it. Well, first of all, I'll go back a couple of the points you made.
Yeah.
I am a big Michael Crawford fan. I love Michael Crawford. I've seen him in concerts, and he's fantastic in concert. So he was really good. So it's tough to imagine that this guy. Yes, he's very silly. He's very silly in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. He's very silly in Hello Dolly too. He was not that way in Phantom. He's a totally different person when you see him in Phantom on Broadway. But yeah, it's over the top, and I thought it was like conducive to this movie a little bit. But and that's just his style, I guess. But I did enjoy that aspect of it. And you're going. I'll talk about some of the other points you made. You talked about the stunts. He did most of his own stunts. I don't know what you read or not. Michael Crawford did most of his own things until he almost drowned in one scene. He was doing a water stunt, and he did go under and almost drown, and they had to rescue him. And he was willing to do it again, but at that point, he said, "No, you're not doing it anymore."
Yeah, no, I did. Was the one story I read, but I could
Right,
kind of tell it was him just based on what I know about how they're done. But I mean, honestly, it's like even the the flying stuff was was insanely good, because I know they're on wires. We all know that
right.
he's on wires. And at the beginning of the movie, he launches himself off the Eiffel Tower, and I swear I've developed some sort of weird this anxiety fear whenever I see someone sitting like on the edge of something really tall.
Yes,
And I keep running across videos like that on Twitter, and I have to skip past them because it makes me I get so upset about it. So I don't want to find out they fell to their death,
yes,
which some people show.
right.
And so when he's standing on the edge of the Eiffel Tower up there, I was like, how he's got to have a safety harness on him somewhere, because they can't just let him run up to the edge on camera like that and look down. It's too freaking scary. It was just
Yeah,
really scary to me. And then when he flies, he's like, they've got him, sailing out over the, down to the ground, and he and Barbara Carrera over water. I mean, I don't, I'm really flummoxed a little bit as to how they did it, unless they're hanging from a helicopter, as he's flying along, or being swung from a big crane. I don't care how safe it is. That's some scary
yes.
stuff to do. I can hardly imagine.
Well, they said that you see the wires in some of the things at the beginning, some of like
Yeah.
the cheesy special. But yeah, I think I'm trying to remember if I read that there was a helicopter that was doing it. I don't remember that now. I'm gonna have to look that up, but it'll be after the episode. But yeah, I read about the effects, and you also said the same thing. Yes, Disney had anticipated this doing so well. They had a sequel planned, which they scrapped when this tanked. But they did have a sequel lined up for this, and it was based on a book. I don't know what you read or not. It was based on a book. What was it? The Game of X by Robert Sheckley, which I did get the book afterwards. Now reading it, so I want to take a look and see what the similarities are. It's supposed to be a humorous book, but yeah, they planned for a sequel. And here's the things that and it's funny that I've seen all of them. They said Disney had a terrible year in 1981 because they had 3 movies that tanked. All three of them tanked at
Wow.
the same time. And this was one. The others were The Devil and Max Devlin, which was, an Elliot Gould, Bill Cosby movie. I don't know if you saw that one.
No, I've not seen it.
That was
I'm aware
not
of it
great.
though. Yeah.
That was not great. And Dragon Slayer, which I enjoyed. I think I saw all three of these in the theater. Actually went to the theater.
I loved Dragon Slayer. I think
Yes.
that's a really good movie, and to me, some of the best, like the best dragon design and footage I've ever seen. I mean, I haven't seen it in many years, but I've seen it multiple times because I really liked it.
I did as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't know I didn't realize that was a Disney production, or that it didn't do well, because I saw it in the theater also, and then ended up, anytime I was out renting VHSs, I'd pick it up repeatedly. But yeah, it's just I can't, I'm not a good enough critic to put my finger on why it would tank, because the stunts are so good, but I think it has everything to do with just like the flat out unbelievability of the actors in it, and the words they're saying. The only
That's
person that had
possible.
any credibility was Oliver Reed, but he can make a movie better just walking in the room.
Well, I was reading stuff about Oliver Reed, of course, which is no shock, getting drunk on this set as well. From everything you've read about Oliver Reed, that could probably be any movie.
Oh yeah, he was always drunk, always drunk. I mean, he was drunk on Gladiator. It's always been a mess. But yeah. So and it's like the premise is so silly, but it actually works. That he's playing out. He's in real life, he's playing out scenarios, heroic comic book hero scenarios that he's written about in his comic books. Although it is a little bit flopped around, because he's supposed to live them out, then write about them. But then he was playing out what he'd already written about. So that, but I'm not gonna beat it up over that. There's plenty of other stuff to beat it up over. But yeah, that's kind of the only thing I can say. It's just like the actors are just terrible.
Well, I like James Hampton, who was in The Longest Yard, Teen Wolf. I love him. So I'd forgotten that he was in this, which I enjoyed, seeing that, he played the best friend, Harry, who's the actual CIA agent. But yeah, it was just fun for me revisiting it. It's a movie. I read a quote by reviews of the time that talked about this movie, and it got, for the most part, it did not get great reviews. There were a few good ones, but the most part, no, that said time that Disney is several years behind every other studio in their live action things, which I could see. But like, goes back to the things that I said at the beginning. Every Disney movie had the same feel to me at the time. When I go back and watch them now, Dragon Slayer not so much, but they mostly had the same feel to the tone of the movie. It was like little, and this was a little bit past Disney, because this had a little bit more of adult as well perspective, but it had that a lot of silliness to it, and maybe not so realistic. With all that being said, I still thought it was fun, and I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking about, beforehand. Looking at it now, doing a research online, this movie has a huge cult following. There's so many people who love this movie that I was reading that one of Marvel's, when Disney acquired Marvel, one of the Marvel editors at the time was pushing to make Condorman brought into the Marvel universe as a hero, as a regular as a regular hero for that. It never materialized, but that would have been fun for me to see something like that. And
Oh,
it says,
sure.
Condorman was included in, like, the Disney games. Um, when they had the Infinity, which my kids had, the Infinity games, the Condorman wings was included as part of the things that you could get. And it was also a Condorman toy appeared in the Pixar short Toy Story Toon Small Fry as one of the discarded toys. But yeah, there does have a big following still for this. If you do searches, you can see a lot of people mentioning Condorman.
Well, yeah, it's fun. I fully admit it's a fun movie to watch, and if you just get over watching the performances and just move through that, there's a lot of payoffs in it. Because I'm telling you, the stunts, especially that car chase with there are four black Porsches that are chasing him, and the two of them in at first, which is this ridiculously huge, clunky, I don't even know what you'd call it, kind of an enclosed truck thing where they're trying to get away, and he you know he has all these gadgets that he demanded that the CIA make for him,
Right.
which is of
Yes.
course ridiculous also. But everywhere he ends up, he's got some other new gadget that they planted there for him to help facilitate their escape from the bad guys. But this very sleek racy type car breaks out of the nose of this truck and takes off, and these Porsches back, I mean, my gosh, on these really windy, fairly narrow mountain roads, are doing all kinds of amazing things. I mean, I was absolutely riveted during that chase scene.
What about the
And
boat scene? The boat scene too, I thought was really.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, the boat scene as well, out on the water, all that stuff. And it really made me laugh, because I said, despite all of these clever devices and his ability to evade the villains, they're all really bad shots. I mean, bad shots.
They were
These
Star
these
Wars
four these
stormtroopers.
four yeah, these four boats have like missile launchers on them, and they can't even get close to knocking him out of the water. And then he's got a laser ray gun that he can't seem to hit until the very, very end. He can't seem to hit a single one of the boats. And it's just really it's comical in that standpoint for me.
Well, here's the thing. Now, watching it, I saw the same thing as you, but would Disney have put anything in there in one of the, even though it was an adult made for adults, and they had a separate division at the time for adult movies, would they have allowed anyone to be shot?
Well, they blew everybody up.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a different thing to me.
No, I didn't mean shooting the people. I mean just shooting the boats, or
Oh
disabling
yes,
the boats.
right.
He couldn't even hit the broadside of the boats, which is what I thought they were going for. But then, each one of them, he finally does hit one. It blows up. One of the boats runs into the rocks with two guys in it. It blows up. So they kill people in this movie, and that was something that it was always that I've always make note of in Disney movies. Nobody really dies in um in Disney movies, and I'm sure there's examples of
Unless
where I'm
you're an
wrong
animal
here.
mother, then they kill you
Yeah,
off.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, yeah, yeah. That's that is true, but it's always handled in a certain way.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things about Escape to Witch Mountain that I didn't really realize until I was doing my repetitive watching of it, while writing my memoir, to constantly refresh my memory on where we were, what we were doing, and all that stuff. But the scene where Tia telepathically levitates the handgun and points
Mhm.
it at the bad guys, and I thought, man, this is like this is a gun in a child's hand being aimed at adults. This is kind of crazy. It's
So far from Disney norm. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm the only person that's ever commented about that, but it didn't even strike me as anything, um, not necessarily problematic, but just that it was occurring. And it didn't occur to me until I watched it a bunch of times, and I thought, wait a minute, this is a gun. He just cocked the hammer. She's aiming at these guys, and she's not going to shoot it, but anyway. um but that just surprised me a little bit, because usually you'll see, like, if, like, the boat blows up and people jump off the boat,
Right.
you don't, they're defeated but they're not extinguished. And in this one they're definitely
Well,
extinguished.
even going back, besides the violence, I mean, even the innuendo, the sexual innuendo in this movie will only go up to a point because it's
Yeah.
still Disney.
Yeah.
They really tamed things down. So I was just wondering if anything was allowed at that point in any of the Disney movies. And it's been many years, and I want to go back because I think The Devil and Max Devlin was a lot darker. And I've not seen it. I think I've only seen it once in my life because I don't think it was great. But that might be a good forgotten films, except Bill Cosby's stuff now. But I think yeah, it only goes to a point. This one too. But I thought this was so much fun, and I loved Barbara Carrera too, and I loved her in Centennial, which she did, that in that time around as well. She was a Bond girl, so yeah, this was a lot of fun to me, and it was fun for me to get to go back and watch this again.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that I will ever see it again, but I'm glad I got to see it this time for sure.
Well, it was a good excuse for me to go
Yeah.
back and watch it again.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've probably only seen this like around 3-4 times in my life, but and it's been, I'm going to say, at least 15 years since I watched it now. So, but it was a good thing. So, all right. So overall, then, okay. So unless you had something, a point that you wanted to make on this.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else. It's just it's like the special effects are so well done. It was supervised by Art Cruikshank, who was my special effects supervisor on the Witch Mountain movies, and I say mine, but I worked with him on that. It's produced by Ron Miller. So I mean, it's a whole lot of the same people that I worked with back in the 70s made this movie.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's very cool.
And so that was neat to note up front. But I always pay particular attention to the effects, because Disney was always so incredibly gifted at the practical effects. And I say practical things that aren't necessarily visual effects. They're things that are actually happening in real time on camera as they're being shot. And I mean, even Michael's cane, his walking cane that fires, supposedly fires bullets. We know they're not bullets, but I mean, that thing was just popping stuff off. I don't even know how. It's like, how did they get that stuff inside the little tube and have it go off like that? It was absolutely incredible. So there's a lot of real fun stuff to enjoy in this movie, for sure.
You first said Michael Caine. I was like,
no, his walking cane.
Yes, I know.
Michael. I said Michael's cane.
Yes,
that's what I was trying to say. Michael Crawford's cane. Yeah.
One of the things that which I read also is that a lot of the props in here were used in Superman, the Christopher Reeve movie, and they just took it on over because it had been filmed in the same place, like just right beforehand. So it was, they used a lot of the same props in there, which now I'm going to have to go back and look at, because I didn't read that till after I watched it again. So I might have to go back and look at it now to see if I see anything in there.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
So, but yeah, like I said, again, this was fun for me. So now I'm curious. All right, so now 1 to 10, what is your scale on this movie?
I'm going to put it at a 7, because there's that 70% of it is worth watching. I think it's the other 30% where they're talking to each other that becomes difficult for me. But yeah, I think that's where I'd rate it.
As I'm right around there, and I'm going to give it, to me, just watching it like this, coming in fresh, never having watched it before, I would say right around that 6.5, 7 mark there too. But nostalgia adding on for me, seeing it for a kid, I'm going to give it the other half point to give it to go to 7.5 around. Because it was fun, and again, if you've seen Disney, if you're a fan of Disney movies of the era, it fits right in. It's you could pull up so many Disney movies of the era, and they're all have that same feel. They really do, and you'll see it. So you'll see it in this as well.
Definitely.
But this was fun. I'm glad we got to do this, and we got happy 150.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome.
Well, again, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Ike Eisenmann, and please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.